I was taking a class at UT, but Geneva Gay was teaching a class in African American culture or something to that effect. She let me know that ACC was going to open up. She said, well, what do you do? And I told her. She said, well, there's going to be probably a community college coming to Austin. And she said, I know the guy that's going to be the dean of instruction. I know, she knew George Wilkerson. And so I said, well, you need to meet him. And so she introduced me to George, and George was a very, very nice person. And so he suggested that, what are you going to be doing tomorrow? He just, it was like he knew me. And I told him, and he said, well, meet me at Schultz's Beer Garden. I got to meet somebody else there. And so I'll talk to you about what's a possibility. And so we met at Schultz's in the afternoon, maybe about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. And this lady had driven in her car from North Carolina. And it was Barbara Washburn. And so we were sitting at a table, and George didn't tell me I was hired. I knew she had been hired because she had been invited to come from Northern Virginia, wherever she was working, to come to help Dr. Hatfield and George start a school. And so George just told me, he didn't tell me I wasn't hired, he didn't tell me I was hired. About 2 days later, about whatever day it was, George was sick, he was in the hospital. So he called me, he knew my phone number, got my phone number. He called me, he said, I want you to go out to the campus and I want you to order some books. I said, what are you talking about? I want you to order a book for the social and behavior sciences, sociology, history, psychology, government. I said, I don't know how to do it. He said, yes, you can do it. And so I did. And so then he asked me to come out to the campus, and I met Dr. Hatfield. And Dr. Hatfield never said I was hired. He said I wasn't hired. And so then he began to call me and ask me to come out to the campus and start doing things. And that's when I met y'all. And then I came out, and it was a nice environment. I felt wanted. I felt like I was doing something of value. So that was the beginning of my coming to ACC. To be at the inception of an institution like Austin Community College was as like bringing a child into the world. We were a part of the beginning of something that is today, that has grown and has served a tremendous number of people. So now our registration, remember registration? We used to register on Sundays. I mean, we go to church in the morning, and we register on the weekend. And somebody said, well, people we need to register, they're going to be ready on Sunday because they work on Mondays and work on Saturdays. So we would go and the high schools would allow us to come in. We'd get out after church, we'd meet up at the school, we'd go to Crockett, we'd register at Crockett that evening. We would go to Reagan. We could be set up in this area in an hour. So if you told us we need to be there at 3 o'clock, we'd meet at the campus at whatever time we need to be, and at 3 o'clock we'd be ready to open the doors and take the students. And we managed to get it done because the students were registered. I got a copy of the original schedule that appeared in the paper, and it was just one page, but we offered enough courses that all of them, I think, the majority of them did real well. And so when we did open our doors to students, we felt that we had accomplished our objective. We knew what our goals were. We met those goals. And to me, that was it. If we did what we said we would set out to do. Anderson High School, the one in East Austin, was a tremendous asset to the community. Well, in 1971, as fate would have it, well, we know AISD closed, out of all the high schools, they closed Anderson High School. Well, it was a tremendous blow. That blow is still being felt today in East Austin among the black people. The community had very little to say about the closing of Anderson High School. So Anderson was closed in 71. 2 years later, ACC comes and is in that same spot. And as a video we have says, education was once more available in the community across the street from Booker T. Washington, which was the housing unit down the street from Rosewood. And everybody, the black folks were still living in that community. And here was an opportunity for them to get back into the educational area. When the ACC opened, and it opened with such a pleasant, receptive group of people, administratively, instructionally, conveniently, and all them other great things that you want to say about it. It served as an opportunity for people who were very upset to be able to come back to the center where some of them had gone to school, and those who didn't get a chance to finish, who had to go to those schools that they sent them to, they could come back to that center and continue and get a degree higher. And a lot of them came back. And in the classes that we had African American history classes the first year. We had 3 classes. Those classes averaged sometimes 45 students a class, because those people who were there, they wanted to come and they wanted to be in that environment. That first wave that went through there, they felt that ACC was their answer of what they lost when they lost the original Anderson High School. So if we're going to have a cultural center, then I felt like we needed to do what we could to bring out those positive things that community contributed. So my year would be, we try to do the history of East Austin from 1900 to 1971. And so what I wanted to try to do was to go deal with the institutions of the community, all the educational, that would be the elementary schools as well as the high school, and try to pull that harmony between the churches and the religious institutions, to go with the businesses, what businesses were in East Austin that were populated and that were popular and were a part of the community. And that way you could bring in their offspring, their children, and maybe we could patch up some of those things that were maybe causing some schisms or some splits because of what happened in '71. And I'd like to think that we've done that. The people that I met, it changed me in a lot of ways that I grew. I didn't know a lot of people of different ethnicities and different races and different groups, not to work with that closely. And I got a chance to go to Africa. You mentioned that you went into Lesotho. I got a chance to go to Egypt and study for 6 weeks because ACC and Dr. Hatfield made that possible. I never thought I would go anywhere. I never anticipated that. The greatest thing, I guess, though, is that, and this is a blessing, I have a wonderful wife, and I had one child when I came to Austin, and I've had 3. My wife and I, we've had 3 since we've been here, and we were able to raise all those kids. My wife has never had to work. All my kids have finished college. I look back at this, and I'm not being braggadocious about it. I just think it's a blessing. And I couldn't have done this without ACC.